Chidiogo said, "Marry me, and I shall make you stay upon the heights of power until the sun forgets to set. But I must warn you, I cannot carry a child. If I conceive, the earth will demand a life, either yours or me." Chapter 1. The Thunder That Walks. The sun was a red eye in the sky when Prince Obinna, the one they called the Thunder That Walks, led his warriors across the scorched plains. Obinna was a man whose heart had been tempered in a cold fire. Though he was the crown prince, his childhood had been a field of thorns. His mother, a woman as gentle as morning dew, had been taken by the ancestors while he was still a boy, leaving him to the mercy of his father's 3 other wives, women whose tongues were sharpened machetes and whose hearts were pots of vinegar. "A motherless child," the elders whispered, "is like a tree planted on a rock. It must fight the very air to survive." And fight Obinna did. During the battle against the village of Elu Anyanwu, Obinna moved like a leopard in the night. Among the ruins, his men captured a woman named Chidiogo. She was a dibia, a herbalist who spoke to the roots. When the warriors urged him to kill her, she looked him in the eye and said, "A man who cuts down the forest to build a house will soon complain of the heat. Spare me, and I shall make you stay upon the heights of power until the sun forgets to set." Chapter 2. The Price of the Throne. Intrigued, Obinna brought her home, giving her a solitary mud hut at the palace edge. His stepmothers hissed like vipers, warning him that one does not keep a snake as a pet, even if it has no fangs. But Obinna was the fly that follows the corpse into the grave. He was deaf to their warnings. For 7 days he pondered her words. On the 8th he sought her out. Chidiogo gave him a bitter choice. "I will make your name a song that makes enemies tremble. But the womb that carries the spirits cannot carry a child. If I conceive, the earth will demand a life, either yours or the child's." To an Igbo man, a house without a child is like a flute without a breath. But seeing his stepbrothers moving like hungry hyenas, Obinna hardened his heart. "A man being chased by a masquerade does not tire," he declared. He chose the throne. His father, King Amadi, wept, but Obinna was resolute. At their wedding, the village mocked him, calling him the Prince of Clay, but he walked with his head high, for the dog that has a bone in its mouth does not bark at the moon. Chapter 3. The Anchor of the Spirit. 2 months later, the mockery died. Chidiogo began the heavy work of the dibia. Every midnight, the scent of sacrifice filled the air. The blood of white hens and goats sealed the palace against evil. Obinna's strength became supernatural. He conquered the giant of Opia, the heaviest man alive, who fell like a great Iroko tree before him. Before every battle, Obinna performed Chidiogo's ritual. He laid 3 stones on the earth with a sacred staff in the middle, the anchor of the spirit. He was invincible. But when King Amadi died, the stepmothers used their poisoned tongues to turn the elders against him. They stripped him of his birthright, giving him a desolate, dry village in the far backlands. As they left, Chidiogo bit her finger until it bled and cursed the old kingdom. "Let the rain fall, but the earth refuses to drink." Chapter 4. 2 kingdoms, 2 destinies. 5 years passed. Obinna's small village grew into a kingdom of light and gold. Merchants flocked to them, for the rejected stone had become the cornerstone. Meanwhile, the old kingdom withered under Obinna's stepbrother, Kamsi-Ochukwu. Desperate, Kamsi-Ochukwu turned to his mother, Queen Nneka, who became his shrine. To gain dark power, he was forced to sleep in a chamber with the dead bodies of pregnant women for 7 nights. He became a creature of shadows, obsessed with killing the brother he had already robbed. Chapter 5. The War of the Heart. While his kingdom flourished, a new battle raged in Obina's soul. He had fallen deeply in love with Chidiogo. He craved her touch, but fear of the prophecy made him avoid her. He stayed in war rooms, avoiding her gaze. Chidiogo, fearing she would lose him to another woman, sent beautiful maidens to his bed to quench his fire. But Obina's heart was a fortress. He refused them all, finally killing the last maid in a rage of loyalty before fleeing into the forest. During the night of celebration, he returned. Chidigo, fortified by her own charms, begged for his forgiveness. The wall between them crumbled. That night, they made love like hungry lions at a desert spring, for hours until exhaustion took them. By morning, Chidiogo prepared a potent herb to prevent a child, but the spirits nearly took her life for it. Obina called a midwife, who used a simpler route to save her. Their bond became tighter than a woven basket, and their passion became a daily ritual. Chapter 6: The Covenant of the Water. One morning at the river goddess appeared to Chidiogo. "Because your love is a shield and not a weapon," the goddess said, "you are released from the old debt. The spirits will protect you and your king, and you shall owe us no blood." Chidiogo returned as the true mother of the land. But at the borders, the shadows were lengthening. Kamsiochukwu began attacking, his witch powers growing stronger every day. He knew he could not win with steel, so he fought with curses. But every dawn, Chidiogo was there, laying her stones and sprinkling her sacred water. The brothers were now two clouds filled with lightning, rushing toward a final clash that would determine whose gods were stronger: the spirits of the dead, or the love of the lion and the root maiden. The price of the golden age. Chapter 7: The Pestilence of Shadows. When the sword failed him, Kamsiochukwu turned to the secrets of the dark earth. He stopped his raids at the border, for a man who cannot outrun a horse does not challenge it to a race. Instead, he sent spies like invisible smoke into Obina's kingdom. Soon a plague of insects arrived, not natural locusts, but creatures of spirit with hunger that knew no end. They did not just eat the leaves, they ate the heart of the harvest. The golden fields of Obina's kingdom began to wither. Farmers wept as their labor turned to dust. Obina was furious, his heart burning like a dry forest in the Harmattan. "Peace, my king," Chidiogo urged. "The river that is angry still flows around the rock." But Obina could not be still. He left the palace and journeyed to the deep valley, where he sat in silence and meditation for 7 days, seeking the face of the ancestors to understand this new curse. Chapter 8: The Secret Bargain. While Obina sat in the valley, Chidiogo returned to the river goddess. Her heart was heavy with a plan. "The prophecy said Obina must die to keep his throne," the goddess whispered, the water swirling around her waist. "But your love has twisted the threads of fate. To save the king and the land from the insects of your brother, a new life must be offered. A child must be born, but the earth still demands its payment." Chidiogo understood. The mother bird does not fear the hawk when her chicks are in the nest. She decided that she would take the burden upon herself. Without telling Obina of the goddess's words, she poured away the daily herbs that prevented her from conceiving. She traded her safety for the future of the kingdom. Chapter 9: The Growing Seed and the Great Challenge. When Obina returned from his 7 days of fasting, his spirit was renewed. He sent a bold message to his brother. "On the 10th month, the sun shall witness which brother is the true seed of our father." As the war preparations began, Chidiogo's body changed. In the 3rd month, the whispers began among the palace maidens. "The queen's belly is a rising moon," they said. When Obina finally noticed, he was not filled with joy, but with a terrifying coldness. He remembered the prophecy. One of them must die. You must lose this pregnancy, he commanded, his voice trembling with the fear of losing her. He brought the midwife with bitter roots to terminate the life within. But Chidiogo stood firm, her eyes like flint. This child is our victory, Obinna. Do not fight the hand of the spirit. For months, they lived in a house of silence, the king mourning a wife who was still breathing, and the queen carrying a secret he was not yet ready to hold. Chapter X. The Battle of Two Bloods. The 10th month arrived. Obinna led his millions of warriors toward the Old Kingdom. It took 14 days of trekking and fierce fighting to reach the heart of the enemy. While Obinna was on the battlefield facing Kamsio Chukwu's dark magic, Chidiogo went into labor. As the swords clashed in the distance, she fought her own battle in the mud hut. At the exact moment, Obinna's spear pierced his brother's heart, breaking the curse and ending the war. The cry of a newborn girl pierced the palace air. The war was won. The darkness was lifted. But as the first rays of victory's sun rose, Chidiogo's breath slowed. She had given every drop of her spirit to the child and the land. By the time the messengers could reach the battlefield, the Root Maiden was gone. Chapter 11. The Return to Silence. It took 3 days for Obinna to return. He rode in triumph, draped in the gold of his new empire, expecting to see his wife at the gate. Instead, he found the village draped in white cloth, the color of mourning. He rushed into their chamber and found her. She lay like a log of fallen Iroko wood, still and cold. Beside her, wrapped in silk, was the child. Obinna did not cry. He was a man turned to stone. He could not touch the baby. He could not even look at her face. To him, the child was the thief who had stolen the light of his life. The trap that caught the bird, he muttered, is not a thing to be loved. For 5 years, the great king became a ghost in his own palace. He ruled with justice, but his heart was a desert. He refused to name the child or speak to her, leaving her to the care of the palace maidens. Chapter 12. The Mirror in the Dust. On the 5th anniversary of the victory, Obinna sat in the courtyard, watching the sunset. A small shadow moved near the hibiscus bushes. A young girl, 5 years old, stepped into the light. She did not speak. She simply looked at him. Obinna's breath caught in his throat. He saw the same eyes that had looked at him in the ruins of Elu Anyanwu. He saw the same chin, the same quiet strength of the Dibia. She was not a thief. She was a mirror. Chidiogo returned to him in a smaller, softer form. For the first time in 5 years, the warlord's eyes grew wet. He reached out a trembling hand. "The tree may fall," he whispered, his voice breaking, "but the sprout ensures the forest does not die." He picked up his daughter and held her to his chest, finally realizing that Chidiogo hadn't left him. She had simply changed her shape to stay with him forever. Epilogue to Part 1. The Shadow of the Sun. The name of the ancestors. Obinna did not give the girl a name born of his own grief. He gave her the name of the woman who first loved him, honoring the bloodline of his mother. He named her Adana, meaning the father's pride. As Adana grew, the people realized she was a child of two worlds. From her mother, she inherited the sun spirit, a radiant, burning energy that made her skin seem to glow under the noon heat. But from the earth, she inherited a silence that was deeper than the forest at midnight. She was a child of visions. She spoke to the river goddess as if the deity were a sister, and she saw the future in the ripples of a water pot. "The moon does not need to tell the world it is there," the elders whispered. "The night reveals it." Adana lived in that night. She was quiet, distant, and found her only comfort in the dark corners of her chambers. whispering to spirits that only she could see. The lion's forge. Obinna, seeing his daughter's withdrawal, feared she would be swallowed by the same spirits that took her mother. He decided to ground her spirit in the weight of steel. He did not want a daughter who drifted like smoke. He wanted a daughter who stood like an Iroko tree. He took her to the training grounds. A child who washes their hands clean, Obinna told her, shall eat with kings, but a child who sharpens their blade shall decide who the kings are. He trained her himself. While other warriors carried heavy broadswords and shields, Adana found them clumsy. She chose two short, curved blades, silvery fangs that caught the light. She did not fight with the thundering strength of her father. She fought with the speed of a lightning strike. The Blade Dancer. In the heat of battle, the quiet, distant girl vanished. When Adana stepped onto the field, she was a whirlwind. She moved so fast that the enemy saw only a blur of silk and steel before their lifeblood returned to the earth. She was the second in command, the shadow behind the lion. Where other men found terror in war, Adana found her peace. The chaos of the battlefield silenced the voices of the spirits in her head. The clash of steel was the only music that made her heart beat in rhythm with the world. She realized that she did not just fight to protect the kingdom. She fought because the blade was the only tongue that allowed her to speak her truth. She became the greatest warrior the land had ever seen. A woman who carried the sun in her spirit and the coldness of death in her hands.